respectfully, you could request a trade to the Guangdong Tigers for all I care. You're not getting anything for Zion right now. You got to prove it.
They send that to Atlanta, who had to be deliriously happy. Like, we only have to move down 10 spots and we get an unprotected. This was one of the 5 dumbest trades of this decade. I was speechless.
Over my past few videos, I've discussed the biggest winners from this offseason, but where there's winners, there's losers. And one of the biggest losers is the Pelicans, and what they did this offseason not only makes me scared for them this season, but for their future as well. The way Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver constructed this roster to me is just questionable. The Jordan Poole trade didn't make a lot of sense. Now, yes, I think Jordan Poole is better than CJ McCollum. It's not by a lot though, and McCollum is on the last year of his deal. So the Pelicans gave up future cap flexibility for a marginal upgrade, then they signed Kevon Looney on a 2-year deal when he's clearly on the decline. In the draft, they took Jeremiah Fears 7th overall, which is not a bad pick, but there was better players on the board to me like Kaman Maluwatch and Noah Essengay. Not to mention they already have Jordan Poole and DeJounte Murray, who are both ball-dominant guards that are bad defensively. Fears is the same archetype, and while Jordan Poole is a good floor spacer, DeJounte isn't, and it's questionable if Fears can grow as a floor spacer. Prospects that are ball-dominant guards that are bad defensively already don't have a high hit rate, and the Pelicans added another one when they already had 2 on the roster. So Fears, for the first 2 years of his career, won't be getting the reps he needs to maybe reach his ceiling, because Poole and DeJounte, when he comes back from his Achilles injury, and Zion will have the ball in their hands. Not to mention, the Pelicans did the trade.
That might be the most reckless draft day trade I've seen in 5 years. With absolutely no due respect, who the hell does New Orleans think they are?
Now, before we get into the rest of the video, I would appreciate it if you could like the video, as it helps the video perform better in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe. The Pelicans traded up to get Derick Queen, but they gave up their 23rd overall pick from that draft and their first round pick next year, unprotected. That's the most favorable between the Pelicans and the Bucks.
You are coping and seeding.
This trade is so bad. Then again, the Cowboys just traded Micah Parsons, so it could always be worse. Getting back to the point, the Pelicans, by the way, last year had the 2nd worst record in the West, and their star player is injury prone. And the guard they acquired in a big time trade is coming off rupturing his Achilles. And the Bucks, outside of Giannis, that roster is bad. So if Giannis were to get injured and miss a lot of time, the Bucks would be at the bottom of the East. The Pelicans traded away a pick that at the worst will be a lottery pick, or it could be a top 5 pick for Derick Queen, who is not a bad prospect, but he's a boom or bust prospect that's not worth trading that pick at all. Not to mention, he's a bad fit next to Zion. Queen is at his best with the ball in his hands, where he's able to control the offense like a point center. It's questionable if he can grow as a shooter from deep. Queen is bad defensively. He doesn't have the athleticism or defensive feel to be a defensive anchor. His lack of foot speed makes it hard for him to defend in space, while Zion is at his best with the ball in his hands. He's not a floor spacer and is below average defensively. In Zion, Poole, DeJounte, Fears, and Queen, the Pelicans have 5 players who are ball dominant and are below average to bad defensively. They have talent, but the fit makes no sense. Maybe it would make a bit more sense on the direction they're going if they trade Zion, but that's a whole dilemma. Zion, when he's healthy, plays at the level of a top 10 to 15 player, but he's never healthy, so if a team wanted to trade for Zion, it would be at a discount. But if you're Joe Dumars, you don't want to trade Zion for pennies, because if he starts becoming more healthy on his new team, you are now the idiot that traded a top 10 to 15 player for scraps and made that team a legit playoff team or a contender. So the Pelicans are stuck putting all their eggs in in the basket of a player we all know is great but is not consistently available. The last thing that scares me about the Pelicans' future is the people in charge. Joe Dumars hasn't been a good executive since 2007. Troy Weaver was a terrible GM with the Pistons, and whatever little of good PR he has left is from the fact he worked under Sam Presti for 12 years. If they were willing to do the trade they did on draft night for Derick, Pelicans fans, you should be terrified for what move they could do next. I appreciate you watching the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Let me know in the comments how much trouble the Pelicans are in the long term. See you on the next one.